He grew up poor in Lancaster, California, the son of an alcoholic father in and out of jail and a suicidal mom. Kicked out of school, his life spiraling toward delinquency, until he wandered into a magic shop where he would meet a woman who would change his life forever, teaching him not only magic tricks, but the magic of his own mind. Teachings Dr. James Doty today credits for helping him become an acclaimed neurosurgeon, a multimillionaire investor in medical innovations, who rose to riches driving fast cars, owning penthouses, villas, and islands. But when it all came crashing down, he says, he learned more about how to truly manifest than ever before. The author of 2 riveting books on the mind now heads the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education at Stanford Medical School. The name says it all. It's where Dr. Doty teaches the science and soul behind realizing a most meaningful life. Neurosurgeon, scientist, inventor, Dr. James Doty. He is today's LA Story. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a really fun edition of LA Stories. I'm Giselle Fernandez, and I'm so excited to be with best-selling author of Into the Magic Shop and also Mind Magic, who devotes his life to the study of the power we all have to manifest our wildest dreams. It's great to meet you, Dr. James Doty.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure.
I want to start with the way you started your book, Into the Magic Shop. You took us right into a surgical theater. You were presiding over this brain surgery of a 4-year-old boy, his life in your hands. You saved his life. Coming from the childhood that you came from, to even be standing there to do that, it seemed that encapsulated everything about your life's journey.
It's interesting because whenever that is brought up, I still get emotional about it. So I'm thankful the child did well. It can be highly stressful, and that's why, it's really critically important you keep it together, to be honest with you.
Well, I was struck because of the way you shared your childhood with us, which was just so gripping. You said you weren't abused, but it wasn't an easy childhood.
Correct. Children who grow up in these environments, there's a lot of often abuse, but mine was more of neglect. This is obviously very sad for a child. It's very sad for the person going through it. But fortunately, I ended up walking into this magic shop.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you're a kid growing up in Lancaster. You're riding your bike. You go in and you meet the mother of the shop owner, Ruth, probably noticing that you were a kid that needed some guidance. And she goes, spend 6 weeks with me during the summer, and I'm going to teach you a whole different kind of magic.
Absolutely. This was a woman who embraced you immediately with kindness. She treated me like an equal, not like a child. And all of that was very powerful because, as a 12-year-old, especially if you're poor, oftentimes people look down at you. So yes, when she offered me that gift, if you will, I did say yes.
She taught you how to meditate, how to picture things in your mind. She didn't change your outside environment or your circumstances. She changed how you perceived it.
That's a very powerful statement because many people are profoundly affected by their external environment, but what a lot of people don't appreciate is that the power they have within themselves. Now, in my case, ongoing trauma, chaos, unpredictability. And I didn't realize that I was tense all the time, and I was always looking around. And when you're in that environment, you can't focus. And she did taught me a mindfulness practice where you relax the body, offer yourself positive affirmations. When you're constantly talking to yourself in a negative fashion, what happens is you create limited belief systems, like what is possible, what is not. Once you say, it is not possible, I cannot, or I am not worthy, that becomes truth. So many of us don't appreciate that we carry baggage from our childhoods. And it actually has an impact on every action, every interaction, partners. And if you have no insight or awareness of that, you can't change anything.
So what Ruth helped you do was really understand the patterns of negative thought that you were continually feeding, embedding into your subconscious that would create then your conscious reality, just by virtue of the way you approach life.
Absolutely. These negative comments are like laying a brick down that builds your own prison. Yet you don't realize when you're doing that you actually always hold the key.
And when you went back to your chaotic home, you were able to then quiet your internal world to better navigate what was happening. And what did that do to you?
It stops you from immediately activating your sympathetic nervous system, this flight, fight, or freeze response, and then makes you look at the world through a slightly different lens, which is engagement of your parasympathetic nervous system, what we call your rest or digest system. And this is actually when you're relaxed, you're open, you're calm, your brain is functioning at its best. When I changed how I looked at the world changed how it looked at me. None of us can control, oftentimes, our environments, but we can control how we react to them. You understand that you are in charge of your happiness. I used to have a lot of anger towards my parents. Ultimately, I realized that they had their own struggles and they didn't have the tools. So the anger and hostility that I had, I let go.
Did you all of a sudden go from like a sense of hopelessness to feeling invincible?
Well, it certainly changed my view, because before I did not believe it was possible to go to college or to change my circumstance. And once I had imbued what Ruth had taught me, then I did believe that anything was possible. And I still believe that, and not just for me, but for everyone. And that is actually an extraordinary gift, that when you realize you have that power, it can change everything.
Ooh. Let's talk about how you went to medical school. They said, don't even try, you don't have the grades, you had a 2.5 GPA. And you insisted, and they let you in. What did you say to them?
Well, first of all, the secretary said to me, I'm not going to give you an appointment because it's a waste of everyone's time. But fortunately, based on what I had learned from Ruth, I had the wherewithal to say, I'm not leaving here until you give me an appointment. And she did. I walk into this room and there's this long table, and the individual who's in charge, he stands up, he has my file in his hand, and he takes it and he throws it on the table and says, say what you have to say.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
That still makes you emotional.
Of course. Say what you have to say so we can get this over with. And I looked at this fellow and I said, who gave you the right to destroy people's dreams? I said, you know nothing about my life. You're making a judgment about me based on a grade point average, yet you know nothing. And I did tell them about my background. So at the end of it, they were all crying. It's easy to judge somebody if you objectify them. But once you force them to look at you as a human being, it's hard to look away. They ended up actually giving me the highest level of recommendation. And really that was the next step that changed the trajectory of my life.
Yes. You would do your residency at Walter Reed and you went to the top of neurosurgery. I mean, that's the top of the totem pole of medicine.
That's true.
Is will alone, is the idea and the visualization of what we desire enough to manifest it?
Yes, of course, nothing's 100%, but if you wish to have the greatest likelihood of manifesting, these are the fundamental principles. It has to not be about you. When we care for others, we release neurotransmitters like oxytocin, and they make us feel good.
The love hormone.
Yes, and so this is the place you need to be mentally to manifest. And my purpose was to be of service, and that was through being a neurosurgeon. And so the stars aligned, if you will.
Yeah, they certainly did. You opened up this neurosurgery practice in swanky Newport Beach. You invest in a company called CCARE, which is this laser knife, which is this amazing innovation for radiation therapy. You made a fortune, and I understand you had villas in Tuscany, islands in New Zealand, penthouses in San Francisco, drove Ferraris and Porsches. I mean, for a kid who came from nothing, did you feel like you'd made it?
Well, everyone said I had made it. Every one of my friends said, oh man, you have the greatest life. You get to do anything you want.
But then the dot-com crash came. You lost $80 million in 6 weeks. You did have $30 million in CCARE stock still, but you had dedicated that to charities. But your attorneys didn't file the paperwork, so they said you still have access to it. You decided, even though you were $3 million in the hole, to give that money away.
Absolutely, yeah, because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about being of service. At first, it was a rags to riches story. When I lost everything, it made me realize none of those things matter.
Let me ask you a question. If you manifested all the wealth and material and success, did you also subconsciously or unconsciously manifest what happened to you as well to reach this point?
In many ways, my subconscious was redirecting me. But it wasn't until I lost everything that I really reflected on the trajectory of my life. And actually, I understood what Ruth was trying to teach me all along, that our purpose here is to be of service. Then that changed how I looked at the world.
That's a really good place to take a break. But when we come back, how Dr. Jim Doty came to Stanford University to create the Center for Compassion and Altruism. When LA Stories comes right back. Welcome back to LA Stories, everyone. We're here with neurosurgeon, neuroscientist, inventor, author, Dr. Jim Doty from Stanford's Compassion and Altruism Center. When you decided to create this center, studying the power of compassion, you engaged the Dalai Lama, Eckhart Tolle, Desmond Tutu, Thich Nhat Hanh, and many others.
I mean, very few people have that opportunity. When you're around these individuals, they live above their dogma. The fundamental ideas that these individuals promote is oneness, interdependence, acceptance, compassion, non-judgment. When you're in their presence, you feel this sense of incredible connection and this feeling that it is true. We are all connected, and it's very powerful.
So in your center, you study the science of compassion that you say allows us to manifest more efficiently. Why?
The best way to manifest is being in the right mental state. This idea that being of service, being connected to others, and the lens of love fundamentally means generosity, openness, acceptance, gratitude. And this is when your parasympathetic nervous system is activated. All of your brain networks function at their best. When you're kind, when you're compassionate, when you're thoughtful, and that's in some ways is a superpower that all of us possess. And what happens is when you approach things from a fear narrative, it limits the possibilities because a lot of areas in your brain shut down or don't work as efficiently. You have to understand, when I had these dreams of possibilities, these were from the eyes of a 12-year-old who grew up in poverty. So an idea of manifesting things like a Rolex watch, a Porsche, a mansion, all of these other things, including being a doctor. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't that I didn't care about people, but it was more of, I'm going to be a doctor to show people
I'm worthy.
I'm worthy. And I accomplished every one of those things, but it was really, at the end of the day, for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. At the time, you didn't know it then. You were just grasping at what that little boy saw as success.
The baggage we carry affects many of our decisions. You have to really look at that and understand the patterns or behaviors that have been set down through your childhood experience.
So if you feel unworthy, if you feel unloved, if you feel not good enough, that will, what? Somehow energetically project how you see the world and what you're worthy of?
Yeah, the problem in our society is there is a narrative that success means money, power, position, and it's a false narrative. They want to be accepted. They want to show off things to others so that they get external affirmation. But the reality is it will not make you happy at the end of the day, versus looking through the lens of love.
Your work began in manifestation to then finding this life of compassion and giving back. And you kind of brought them together, saying, do it fueled by service to others and you will manifest more fulfillment.
You'll manifest everything you want.
You talk about focus. And focus and repetition, that visualization, imbue that into our subconscious will, manifest that into our reality. But that takes attention and focus. And the majority, your studies show, say spend 80% of our lives focused on technical devices. How distracting is that from our capacity to truly manifest what we want?
It's distracting, right? And but again, this goes back to the narrative of manipulation for financial reward, right? I mean, if you look at social media companies, they hire a number of neuroscientists and psychologists to create a narrative that results in dopamine drips, which are highly addictive. And that is their purpose. It is not about saving humanity or serving humanity. It's about profit for shareholders. And unfortunately, that is the world we live in. But that being said, we do have the ability to focus.
So in your books and in your center, you say repetition, spend 5 minutes a day, visualize, feel the visualization.
This is the pathway to change your brain. What are the techniques that can allow us to manifest most efficiently? You think of it, you write it down, you read it silently, you read it aloud, you visualize yourself being in that position. It's where you create a representation of who you are or who you want to be. And once that intention is placed there, then it becomes salient. It becomes important to you. And this activates our salience network, which then activates your attention network, and your subconscious is always looking for possibilities. This is the nature of synchronicities or coincidences. You suddenly now are opened up to all the things that are going around you which you weren't even aware of. Once we focus our attention, then we're looking at everything that actually is related to our intention to manifest.
So you say it's not woo-woo, this is not, God or spirit. This is simply science of what you put your energy towards attracts like energy.
That's a way to put it, sure. My goal is to use neuroscience to explain the process of manifestation and give you the tools that allow you to maximally have the ability to manifest your dreams.
Well, we're going to go into some of those tools more extensively when we come right back on LA Stories. Stay with us. Welcome back to LA Stories. We're here with the founder, the creator of the Center for Compassion and Altruism, Dr. James Doty. How we manifest is determinant on what we focus on and pay attention to. But in your studies, you point out 80% of the time, people are either thinking of the past or anxiety of the future and not in the present. So how much does that kind of derail us from, willing our realities into being?
So many people are thinking about what might have been, could have been, or they're looking at a future which hasn't happened yet. They're not really present. So things like mindfulness types of training are hugely profound in the sense of allowing you to be in the present moment and not being distracted by all these other things. And once you have your agency and you recognize actually how powerful you really are, it actually can have a profound, profound change. That gift is available to all of us.
One of the things I got from your book is be very, very conscious and aware of the negative thoughts you're repeating to yourself almost on a habitual basis, and then replace them with a kinder, more compassionate view of yourself.
Well, so many people are the most critical of themselves than anyone they know. And it's unfortunate, and unfortunately our society oftentimes reinforces that. But again, loving yourself, accepting yourself, understanding that you're worthy of love. And all of us are frail, fragile human beings. We've made mistakes. There's certain things we're ashamed of about us. There's certain patterns of behavior that we wish we didn't have. But in the face of everything, we still deserve love and acceptance. People don't appreciate how powerful they really are to change their lives, to change the lives around them. Everybody has that within them. You have to change your beliefs. You create your beliefs. You can change your beliefs, but you have to understand that is within you. There's no magic in the universe that's going to come and save you. You have the power to do it yourself. You just have to believe it. And once you understand that, you'd be amazed at what's possible.
Do you think Ruth had any idea how she empowered you and the seed she planted in you?
So I never saw Ruth again. She died of breast cancer. So I don't think she did know, but maybe she does know in a metaphysical sense.
Well, I'm so moved by how you feel deeply for humanity, the work that you've done on the brain and on the heart. Dr. James Doty, for anyone who wants to manifest and truly feel fulfilled in life, Mind Magic and Into the Magic Shop, thank you so much.
Thank
What
you.
a pleasure to sit and talk with you. And thank you for watching another edition of LA Stories. I'm Giselle Fernandez. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.